Sophie at White Hart Clinic in Barnes.
So my name is Christien. I'm really happy that Anne and Joe are here talking about a very important subject that's very close to our heart. And the reason we like to do these talks and talk to women on the whole is that often we keep really important public health messages behind the doors, in the treatment room, and really we want to share those messages with everybody out there.
We're now going to talk about a very nice subject, how to do a good poo.
Well, yes, the question really is, are you sitting comfortably? Obviously, pooing is something we all do privately and we all do very differently. So it's time to sort of get out there and talk. Basically, we are designed to squat behind a tree. So one of our problems is that we all sit on toilets on loos, which are big pans. We can just all let it go. No directional direction is needed. And often our toilet seats are too high. So it means our knees are often slightly lower than our hips. And it affects the position of your rectum.
Anal rectal angle. Yeah.
So your anal rectal angle changes. So, and ideally, a little bit like in childbirth, you just want it to already face in the right direction. Yeah. So nothing has to go around the corner. Nothing has to go around the corner first. But of course, we're stuck with those toilet seats at the moment. So first of all, everybody get a stool. Okay, and preferably if you've got more than one loo in the house, have a stool in every toilet. So whenever you feel the time is right, you know, there is a call, and always answer the call. Doesn't matter who you are with, answer the call. Because once your internal sphincter tells you that the poo is there, then don't ignore it for too long. Obviously, if you're not near a loo, it's normal continence to be able to get to a loo. Yes. That's important as well. That's why we've got that mechanism. But as our internal sphincter muscle, bowel muscle, is so clever, probably cleverest muscle in our body, because it knows the difference between gas, if it's wind, it knows when it's solid, it knows when it's fluid. So listen to it, because it's very sophisticated. Yeah. So we need to keep communicating with it.
Talking.
So knees need to be up. Yeah. So that affects the angle, and you're already sitting in a better angle. Okay. Nothing ladylike about position when you.
I think there's nothing ladylike about full stop.
It's just so we all do lean forward and have your knees slightly apart. If you've got daughters and they wear tight leggings when we treat children, and they're always in a rush and they don't even pull their leggings down and everything is squashed together, make sure they sit comfortably. If they can't get out of the habit, we ask them to turn around to the toilet, so they have to take their leggings off all together. And then of course take your time, be patient. Don't push.
Let the tummy bulge out and breathe.
That's right. So don't push in the sort of traditional way. That peristaltic movement needs to give you a little bit of time.
You're risking prolapse with pushing.
Yeah, and it's bearing down on your pelvic floor. So pushing can also cause your pelvic floor to contract. And if you remember, the external anal sphincter is part of your pelvic floor. So if you're sitting there and pushing, you can be actually contracting, which is going to block that space and then make it harder for the bowel motion, which will need more pushing as well. So pushing is not good, but no one really teaches you when you're a little kid how to go to the toilet properly.
And also when you push, it's a bit like squeezing out toothpaste tube from the top. You often don't empty it effectively. So poo's got to really descend into the right space, then be in the right position, give it time. But also you don't need to sit there for half an hour. Okay, if it's not there, it's not there.
Now you did have a lovely tip that if you didn't have a stool, there is another prop you could use.
Yeah, there's different things you can use. Toilet rolls are actually a really good size as well, and especially for people with piles of hemorrhoids. You don't want to have your knees too high up either, because otherwise that can sort of occupy a bit of space again. But I did have a patient once, which I thought was lovely. She said, I just wear my really high stilettos. So if you want to do it ladylike, that is another option. That is another option.
Stilettos if anybody
The main thing is that your knees are slightly higher than your
and legs open.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing. And don't rush. Give yourself a little bit. So, but then of course, the formation of stool is really important as well. So we have a chance. Sophie, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah. So this is the Bristol stool chart, which you may have never seen before. I'll just bring it up a little bit closer.
The Bristol stool chart.
And basically, it just gives you descriptions of different types of poo and what they look like. And
so, which poo are you?
So basically, we want to be around a 3 or 4. So type 3 or 4, a long sausage, soft shape should be the type of poo that we're aiming for. So if you're a little bit higher up the scale and you're getting sort of hard
droppings.
Yes, or sheep's droppings as they describe it, you're actually more on the constipated scale. So you may still be going regularly, but if you're only doing a smaller number of little, almost like sheep's droppings, then you're actually constipated, and usually you may need to actually strain to pass those. If you then go down the other end of the spectrum, if your stool is a little bit too watery or soft, that can also be harder to control, especially if you've got a weak pelvic floor, and that's where we do find women struggling with incontinence if they are already weak. So you want to be sitting around a 3 or 4. If you're above that, we want to be doing things like increasing your water intake, your fibre, and more water with fibre. And there are other things you can do to manage that, but on the other end of the scale, we also don't want you too soft. So if you are too soft, there are things that you can change in your diet, and we do recommend going to see a dietitian or a nutritionist, because they can often give you really simple dietary changes to get you achieving the optimal stool, where you don't need to push, and it just does the work for you. So,
and a high, but fibre in your diet is so important.
Fibre in your diet is
a real varied amount of fibre, lots of different type of fibre, really varied. But because this, very often when we assess women and they even think they're not constipated, we can just feel the little pebbles in the rectum, and if there's already a bit of weakness, like Sophie is saying, in the back wall of the vagina, it can just sit there.
Yes.
And you might not feel constipated. So although, it's very difficult to say.
So you would be able to identify that in an internal examination?
Sometimes, depends of course if people had a bowel movement, if it's a good day or a bad day.
If they call it already been there.
We're all thinking, wow, okay, that's what you do.
But also get comfortable going to any toilet, because I know a lot of women, they don't want to go at their friend's house, or they may not want to go when they're out and about in a public toilet. So squatting is also not good, because squatting, you're actually tensing to hold yourself in place. I mean, if you feel more comfortable, lie in the seat, but really make sure you are sitting down, because if you keep holding that bowel motion in, more water gets absorbed out of the bowel motion. So you may be in a size like a type 3 or 4, keep it in too long, and then you end up in a size 1 or 2, or shape 1 or 2, and then you're needing to really.
That's usually me when I'm on holiday. I don't know, my husband
calls it my holiday tummy. Travel constipation.
I do. It's just I almost a psychological, but maybe it's the plane, because planes do dehydrate you, don't they?
And people may not want to use a plane toilet.
No, exactly.
But I think that's really important, is getting used to going anywhere and just listening to your body, because otherwise you might be holding on too long and causing the constipation.
Absolutely. If you're on a holiday and you're with friends, just announce it. If it's breakfast.
Great, well, thank you. Is there anything else?
Well, the only other thing is if you don't fully empty. So if you feel like you've been to the loo and you get up and you still feel like there's something there, that can also be a sign that you actually have a bit of a posterior wall or a back entrance prolapse, where you actually have the bowel dropping forward a little bit, and it just means that the S shape is bigger and that stool can get stuck there, so it almost has to go back up to then come out again.
And what would the tip be for this?
So for that, generally what we'd suggest, again, really important not to push, because you don't want to push that prolapse or that back wall any further, but sometimes those women will actually find it more comfortable to sit back, because that will lift that rectum up and straighten that angle, or using vaginal pressure. So you can actually support the perineum and actually lift.
So literally fold.
Yep, lifting through that perineal area and support, or sticking a thumb into the vagina and pushing back onto the rectum.
That would work when you're trying to do a poo as well. But
if you can't,
you're only
correcting it, to straighten that angle.
And I think you've got this on your website as well, haven't you? So there's also a tool for that. In my experience, most women prefer to do it manually. This is also a tool that you can use if you prefer, or you have less mobility, and then you can, again, the back wall of the vagina, you can give it a little bit of tension you create there, and also make sure it doesn't descend down too far. And this is much better than straining and making a prolapse, making prolapse worse. But that's why it's so important to have the right stool formation, because even with a bit of a prolapse,
you could have a tip jar in your
before,
bathroom, couldn't you?
Yeah, I know. That's what I meant.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
But you sort of travel, because this is something we always hear. Bowels love routine, so you go on holiday and your routine is gone, and prepare for that. Add more fibre before you go. Maybe have a proper hydration drink on the plane, or whatever you need to do. So you have to probably start thinking about that 1 or 2 days before your holiday or before your travels, to make sure your bowels are
you're thinking about your bikini, you're thinking about your hotel transfer, now you're going to be thinking about your bowel.
Nothing like a happy bowel movement.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
We have learned
so much. Thank you.